Hi, welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Today I am doing a solo podcast and I want to touch on the realities of progress and what progress actually looks like, what the process looks like. Because a lot of us can get caught up in, I'm not seeing change fast enough, I don't know what to look for, nothing's happening, I'm disappointed, I feel like I should have seen a lot more progress by now. Or maybe in a month or 2 months, you look at the physicals or you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't feel like I've made any progress. I've gone backwards. And that can bring up the discussion of, okay, well, what does progress mean to you? Is progress only in how much your body changes, or are there some other ways that we can view progress? That's going to be a huge thing in this, because if you only have one measure of progress, it is going to be very difficult for you to feel like you're making any ground, for you to feel like anything is worth it, because change is difficult. It's not like food isn't about following a meal plan and then seeing your body just shape up overnight. Or it's not even just tracking your food, because to learn how to, well, the first thing actually is to figure out what it is that is actually stopping you. To figure out what it is that has held you back in the past, where you struggled in the past. To figure out what it is that needs to change as a habit, which can sometimes take quite a few weeks to figure out, okay, well, I just realized this particular habit is what's holding me back, which even with some of my clients at particular times, it's taken them quite a few weeks. There was one client that it took her 2 months to finally come to me and say, I'm only cheating myself. This is holding me back. I'm coming clean. It's the weekends. I'm eating out and I'm just wanting to make a party out of, well, she didn't say a party out of every single meal, but I just want to make every single meal flavorsome. Like, I have this thing with food where it always has to be the best thing, but then there was something that you said about not every meal has to be a party in your mouth. And then listening to you over a couple of podcast episodes, I realized that I need to just tell you because you're my coach. And there is no judgment here. I will never judge. And there should never be shame to this, because if you hold shame, if you hold judgment, you are continually shooting yourself with a second arrow and keeping yourself in the same cycle. The goal is to figure out what that thing is, to learn how to do it, how to apply it in different situations that can be a little bit sticky, and then do that consistently and frequently enough to actually see results. Because it does not matter what results you get if that stuff hasn't been addressed. People are so focused on, I want to see change here and on the scale and in the photos. And yes, I get that. I really do, because I want that too. I wanted that too. And it frustrated me when I couldn't see it for myself. I really understand it, because you're putting in the work. You're desperate for change. You don't like where you are. You're unhappy. You're investing effort, time, money. Of course you want results. Of course you want to see the change for that. But things get in the way. Life happens. And then there are challenges. And if you haven't learned how to navigate those things, the results you get aren't going to stick. And you can get the results, but also end up then with a negative relationship with food, a negative relationship with yourself, living so restricted in an all-on or all-off mentality, a binge mentality, where you're really good during the week, but then overdoing it on the weekends, but at the same time not really bothered by it, because you aren't getting worse, but you aren't getting better either. but at least you're not getting worse. You know what the outcome is. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, because it's like it's a known outcome. As much as you hate your situation, it's a known outcome. And that's where I was, because I was scared that if I changed anything, I didn't know the outcome. What if the outcome was going to be worse? What if I did end up worse? And I'm already trying so hard. I'm already struggling. I'm already suffering with this. I'm already suffering with that. I'm going to struggle. And that is then when I realized that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I didn't want to keep seeing little to no progress year after year. I didn't want to keep feeling this way. And yes, I knew that it was going to be such a heavy investment, but I was just sick of it. And I don't even know what flipped the switch for me in that regard, because I still remember complaining that it was so uncomfortable to do this change, because I was just scared of it. And I knew that this is why I like to call it the recalibration stage, because there is some recalibration, and that recalibration can take a while. But then as soon as you get to that point, that just ticks you like a train track, ticking the train finally onto the right tracks. As soon as you hit that click, the rest is just like that train to Hogwarts. Like that's where you are now on the way to magic. That is what we want. We want that click on the tracks. But this is where so many women struggle. They doubt whether this is working, and then they revert back to their older methods because they felt more comfortable and safe, even if they weren't helpful in getting you to your desired outcome. That's just how the human brain is designed. Like walking through the woods, there's no, like, you haven't cleared a path in that right direction. It's so much easier to go down the other one because you can see the path there. The trees are cleared. You're not going to get stuck in cobwebs. You're not going to possibly get your foot stuck into some hole that's on the ground, or there's not going to be some weird raccoon or turkey that just jumps out of nowhere. I'd say kangaroo, but you know, this is a recipe for how to stay stuck and not change. The thing with all of this is that we like the path of least resistance. The road less traveled isn't exciting to us because it's not been traveled before. Like, what's going to happen? What's down there? I don't know. Well, what's the cost of not actually taking a chance? You can figure it out along the way, and this is where a lot of people need to start to believe in their abilities to do the thing, which is why you need to give yourself actionable steps that you can actually manage, which is what I'm going to talk about. The brain wants predictability. The more predictable the process, the more likely you are to do it. And predictability you've already created, but it's just not in the direction that you want. So now you need to trust yourself to create the same predictability, one habit at a time. But everyone fails because they don't do this one habit at a time thing and give themselves the grace and patience to learn that, to get better at that, to be honest with themselves, to work through that, to figure out how this all fits into your lifestyle and how you can navigate it. Because as soon as you don't see the change, as soon as you don't see that immediate result, the doubt comes up again, and then it's like, well, this isn't worth it. I'm just gonna quit. I'm just gonna cancel. And if you have a coach, I'm just gonna cancel coaching. What's the point? I don't see results. Well, this is the very point. The point isn't getting immediate results. You've done that before, and shit doesn't work the same anymore. Like, you've done that quick shit. We want results that last. This can be the same if you've started on a new program. It's like, okay, well, this program isn't working. I don't see immediate results. And immediate results can even be in 3 months. That is still immediate results. It can be anything. Because the process is where the work is done. The process. I said this on my stories when I got inspired by this post, and there's two different ways to see this. It's almost like, oh my goodness, I finally just bought this new house and there's this amazing space at the back that I can just build the best garden because there's nothing there. But I know that I need to research all this stuff, and then you go into the researching, you do the planning, you get super excited, you buy the best soil, you look into the best fertilizers, you do all of that stuff, and then you start to build the garden. You put all of this effort into it. You start tending to it. You're motivated, this initial motivation. Okay, this is it. I'm seeing the difference. Look, I can see the change. The garden has transformed completely. And then you start doing little bits of gardening here and there. You haven't done any of the weeding. And when the weather isn't all that good, or you're emotional or stressed out, you have no time for the garden. And then you go through a couple of weeks where things are just low. You neglect some of the plants, and it's been a really hot couple of weeks. Some of them, they withered. And then you see it and you're like, what's the point? Well, they'll come back to life. They'll be fine. I'll get back to it tomorrow. Whatever it is. But then your friend calls you. I cannot wait to see your garden. I am so excited. You were so hyped up about it. She drops by without even giving you a chance to reply. There's no flowers there. It's been 3 months. I would have expected something. Maybe it's even been 4 months. Why would you expect there to be an amazing garden in 3 to 4 months if you know as a fact that you didn't do the gardening that you needed to do? You didn't do the weeding that you needed to do. Like, yeah, cool, some weeds have grown, but that is not the outcome that you wanted. You can't want the harvest without doing the gardening. And this can also be like getting a financial advisor and expecting to get out of debt because you're in the greatest debt right now, aka you have a lot of excess fat. Do you check the price tags / nutrition labels? Nah. Are you just swiping off the licks, the bites, the tastes, the chews, the kids' nuggets, or a couple of fries from your husband? If you're a woman, all these little things really do count. How about all of that stuff? Because that's just like you going onto Temu and buying little $5 purchases here and there. They all add up over time. And that, like, if you have a smaller budget, the bigger of a percentage, those smaller prices are a bigger percentage of that. And the thing with all of this that I'm trying to get you aware of is it doesn't matter the results that you want to see, the progress that you want to see without the process. The process is what matters the most. And you'll find that once you're in the process, you just start, like, you're not someone trying to build a garden anymore. You're a gardener. You start to enjoy your time in the garden. You start to love the colors of the flowers and want to keep doing the gardening because you're smelling how amazing the flowers are. You might even have some things planted that bear some fruit. You might have planted some herbs and spices, and now you can actually enjoy it because you put in that hard work at first. Yeah, like maybe it took about 6 months for some of the stuff to start to flower, and now you can actually pick the fruit. Now you can actually use the spices. And you keep doing it because you keep getting the benefit from it. But you need to go through that hard period at first. And yes, it is fucking hard. I hear you. Like, you're human. I always say progress, there's no such thing as slow progress. You're just impatient. But guess what? That's called being human because I'm impatient as well. Like, I'm still impatient. I'm over 8 years into this and I'm impatient. Still. And I have to be patiently impatient because the changes that I see 8 years on now are pretty much minimal. Like, I'm a human too. I'm in this journey. I know. Because it's like, I'm grinding. You see me smashing my ass with my runs, with my squats, my deadlifts, my everything. And I look in the mirror and I look at my butt. Nothing's changed. And when it comes to butt growth, that is another thing because people store fat differently. And many of the butts that you see on Instagram are mostly made, well, every butt that you see on Instagram is mostly made of fat because that is where a lot of fat is stored. A lot of people store most of their fat on their butt, especially if it's a genetic thing. And herein lies the issue, where people are also posed, they do BBLs, but then when they diet, they lose their butt, all that kind of stuff. It's where do these expectations come from? Where do your beliefs come from about the process? What time scale are you giving yourself? What metrics are you using? Because I know people even use metrics of the past, where they lost a lot of weight in the past pretty fast and they saw changes pretty fast. So now anything else just seems really slow. But why did that not last? Do you want this to last now? Because I can click my fingers, we can start to see changes, but if we haven't fixed the snacking, the emotional eating, the whatever else is underneath, those changes don't last. And you're never going to feel as happy and satisfied within yourself if you're still not feeling in control of your results. And I think a lot of people get harder on themselves around this stuff because of the fact that we are nowhere near where we are yet. And we are very well aware that what we're doing isn't serving us. This is why the process is so important. This is what coaching is. Coaching isn't in, here's a training plan, here are your proper macros, let's get some results. It's not that. It's the coaching. Because what usually happens is when people don't expect to struggle, which you are going to struggle, or when you're disappointed with your results, they view it as a sign that things aren't working, that they should stop, and they spiral into spots of, I'm never going to get there. There must be something else that I'm missing. Or they just don't trust the method anymore. I don't trust myself. I don't trust my coach. I don't trust this. This isn't working. I mentioned this before. But that just keeps you in the start, stop, restart, shift gears cycle of eating behavior change, which is really difficult. And every time you do that, you're just starting off with less confidence, which makes it so much harder for you to go through those processes of change. You need to manage the growing pains of process, of progress, of change. And you need to understand the process of change, because change is emotionally charged. It's not a physical thing. It is an emotional thing. So what are the emotions? What are the expectations? If you're a female, there is even more to this because you have hormones at play. You have your menstrual cycle at play, which comes with a host of bloating and this and that. And if you're going through perimenopause, that's even worse because now you have erratic stuff that you can't even predict on a monthly cycle. So let's just talk about expectations for change, because everyone's going to have their own unique relationship with change. What are your relationships? What are your expectations? Where did they come from? How long have you given yourself to meet your goals? And where did that expectation come from? Because if you do it the right way, you won't have to keep doing it again. You just need to keep the process. Stop starting and stopping. Stop investing into a process, or if you have a coach, don't just get a coach for 3 months or 5 months or 6 months. Like, do the process right, because then you won't have to do it again. And probably if you're like me or any of my long-term clients, you'll end up finding out that there is so much more to coaching than just that. There are so many other things that you can do, but you will never get to that place if you have such a narrow focus, such a narrow meaning of progress. A lot of people that I see have this expectation where if I don't see results, I will stop because I think it's not working. And this is where we need to unpack what results mean to you. What are we doing? What are those process steps? What can we focus on? And it's really easy to be like, oh no, I'm a unicorn because I'm going to be the one that will experience things quicker with less of a struggle because I'm such an aware person. I've been doing this for years. I'm already on top of eating this way or eating that way, or I buy organic stuff, or I love my veggies, so I'm gonna see things so much faster. But no, you can't force biology and you can't force behavior change, because the weak links matter. Like, all of this stuff matters, and we want to be able to fit it into the process of your life. And that changes. What maintenance looks like for you changes. What fat loss looks like in any phase changes, because your life evolves. There's seasons, there's priorities, there's a whole host of things. And the first fat loss phase is probably the hardest because it's learning to trust yourself, learning what to expect. Just like the first building phase is the hardest. But when you start any process of change, it is very difficult to address all those process things, jumping right into a harsh fat loss phase. That is why most of the time, starting at a solid, mild deficit to lower end of maintenance to moderate end of maintenance, because maintenance is a range, is the way to go. It's the easiest way to now address any sticky habits, any sticky anything else. Because once you get a nail on all of those things, that is when the fat loss process becomes easier. Because fat loss is not going to happen smoothly if you haven't built up knowing how to train, more strength within training, training capacity, built up your steps to at least 8,000. Because the amount of people that I see that are saying, I'm in a deficit, but I'm not seeing results. And then all these comments saying, oh, did you get your hormones? Oh, but food sensitivities, blah, blah. And then you ask a simple question, how many steps do you get? 3,000 to 5,000 a day. Well, you're not in a deficit. It doesn't matter how much body fat you have. That is not a deficit. Because body fat is inert. Like, it's not burning anything. That's just extra weight on the scale. And most macro calculators are so freaking inaccurate for that very reason. You need to move a lot more. And it's hard to build that habit overnight if it's not something you regularly do. Or if you're a busy person. And there are so many little sneaky ways that you can build it in. But this is why you need to give yourself patience. So really keeping yourself aware of that. And that it's not a matter of if you're going to struggle or if something doesn't go to plan, because it's going to happen regardless. And you need to have a plan for it. A plan B. You need to expect it. Because struggle is going to happen. It is not going to be easy. Change is never easy, especially if you are over 30. Even more if you're over 40. The adult brain resists it more than anything. It wants predictability. Some challenges, some weeks are just worse than others, and this is why you need to give yourself grace and not put a timeline on things. And try to understand what meaning you give to struggle, what meaning you give to failure, because these feelings are valid. They're uncomfortable. But feelings seem like such truths to us when we're in such an emotionally charged state. So I hope my little rant on progress there helped you, because my goal is to build your tolerance to this stuff. That's why I do my podcasts. And the reason I'm releasing this podcast now is it's getting closer to the end of the year. And New Year's resolutions, which I'm a fan of for the why, but why are you setting it? What does it mean to you? Because that matters as well. And do you have your expectations in check? Because if you can build your tolerance to showing up even when you don't see immediate results and understanding this process of change, then the sky is the limit for you. You will get your results. It's just a matter of showing up, doing the work, being honest with yourself, being honest with your coach if you have one. Moving through the struggles requires conversations that help you unpack what you are going through so you can better understand it. Because sometimes we don't understand things until we voice it, until we have the conversations, until we get questioned. And even question our beliefs. But I want to end this with the most important factor, and that is no one changes through shame. Don't shame yourself into change. You need to allow yourself to understand it. If this helped, let me know. I really want to do more solo episodes. Never really know what to do them on. I've always wanted to do one on getting lean legs, etc., but I really wanted to make this one because I feel like it's going to be a gold gem. And if it helped you, if it helped anyone, send it to someone. And give me a 5-star rating if you can, please, because that will help me a lot. I don't want to do ads, but I really want to get this podcast out there. I love you all, and just remember, you can do anything that that you believe you can. If you're on the right system, it's just a matter of showing up, building awareness, and doing the things.